Hello and welcome to EduSathi's video on interview basics. I am Varid Arora, and in this video lecture we'll discuss some of the important points which you need to keep in mind when you go for an interview. What are the questions that can be asked, how you need to answer them, and how you're going to crack every single interview you go in. So interview is basically an introspective journey. Whenever you start preparing for interviews, you need to know more about yourself, like what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what do you like, what do you not like, and the same things you need to tell the interviewer. So let's begin. So what is the purpose of an interview? To assess the skills required to perform a job. Now let's say you're sitting for an interview for an MNC or for an MBA college. More or less what these two entities will look at is whether you are a right fit for the company or college or not. And how will they assess that? They look at two things. The first one is the personal skills. These include the way you talk, the way you think on the spot, what is your presence of mind. So these are morely behavioral in nature, learned over a longer period of time. That depends upon what kind of schooling you had, what kind of activities did you take part in college. Let's say somebody likes public speaking, so he must be involved in a lot of debate, so he can talk well. Somebody else would be good at sports, somebody else would be good at technical skills, which is a second thing they will look at. So let's say you are a mechanical engineer, so you need to know about thermodynamics, you need to know about IC engines, about a diesel engine, how does it work. So this is something you've learned in that college or in that school, and this is more of a personal on how you are generally by nature. Are you an optimist, are you a pessimist, how do you think on the spot, and more of these things we'll discuss more as we proceed. So what are the points to remember when you go for an interview? Before entering the room, chew a breath mint, take a washroom break, look at yourself in the mirror, calm yourself down, take a deep breath, and then knock the door. Don't enter the room without knocking. Now, as you enter the room, you should seek permission. Sir or ma'am, or please may I come in? Walk to the chair and just stand by the chair. Smile and then wish. Do not offer them your handshake, but accept if they offer you a handshake. Now what happens is you don't offer your handshake because the person sitting in the room might be very senior to you and might not like such a young person shaking hands with him or her. Now this is entirely everybody's mentality, but we need to be safe also. Because of tension, because of nervousness, your hands might be sweating, so do not offer a sweating hand to anybody. But if one of the persons offer you a handshake, you should shake hands with the rest of the team also, which is present in that room. Now try to lead the interview through your CV. For example, let's say you are very fond of football. I am a Chelsea fan. So when they ask me like what are your hobbies, or what extracurricular activities were you part of in college, what do you like to watch, so all these kind of questions I will try to lead them into football, that I like to play football, I like watching football. Or if they ask me what do you do in your idle time, so I'll tell them that I go to the ground, play football, or watch a match and something like this. So basically I'm trying to lead them into asking me questions on football. The next thing is that don't bluff if you haven't practiced it beforehand. Now what happens is a lot of MBA colleges will ask you what are the challenges you have faced in life, and the number of people I've come across, more than 80% of us do not have any challenges to share. So in this case you need to make up a challenge. For example, there was a partition in your family, or you were a stage coordinator and suddenly the person who was supposed to come was 15 minutes late, so you need to handle that stage for 15 minutes, so some kind of challenge. Now what happens is if you don't practice this challenge before, they'll know that you are lying. But you should never bluff on facts. Like for example, let's say you were not in the organizing team, don't say that you were there in the organizing team, or you were an NCD cadet when you were not, because they can always ask you for proofs and you will not have the proofs or certificates. And even let's say you arrange for one, you will never know what happens when you are training in the NCC. So these kind of things you should avoid. If you were not in the organizing committee, you will not know the problems, the kind of problems people face when they are in one. And the person who's taking our interview will definitely know. So don't bluff on facts. You can only bluff on subjective things. Humor is advisable if you have a good sense of humor, and if you get a chance to crack a joke or something in the interview, it is very positive. Now, because the interview has taken a lot of interviews, probably 100 interviews that day, and all of them were equally boring as the one which is currently going on. Okay, so everybody will tell the same thing, the introductions, why should we select you, the kind of questions we'll discuss later in this slide. So if you bring some kind of humor, you are almost selected. I had a friend who did stand up comedy. So in his interview, when they told him to introduce himself, he started off, and in the second line he told them that I am a stand up comedian. The entire interview was in stand up comedy. They told him to do a 2 3 minute stand up comedy in front of them, for which he was obviously prepared. And then in the entire thing was on stand up comedy in India, and AIBs and TVFs. So this was very easy. This was his forte. So humor always helps. Avoid slangs. Now, let's say you studied in Delhi public school, and in your introduction you say I've passed out from DPS. Now, DPS can also be the lousy public school. So don't use slangs. Always take the full name of your school. Also, let's say I ask you, so Saurabh, how you feeling? You say, yes, sir, I'm feeling good. So, yeah is not a term, or yeah is not a term. You should always say yes. So, because you're sitting in a formal interview, be natural, poised, and obviously well mannered. So, what are the qualities that interviewers seek? Now, this is very important, because if you know what they are looking for, you can always show them that you possess these qualities. So, the first thing is good all round intelligence. Now, in this, there is technical as well as personal skills, which we discussed in the first slide. So, technical skills will be more of academic subject related. For example, let's say you are a BCom grad, so they can ask you something from eco, or some entries from accounts, or something from business studies, etc. Now, personal skills is more of how you react in the moment. Now, herein they can give you a case study. For example, they tell you, okay, Varid, you are the HR of a company, and you've just found out that the CVs that were forwarded to you were not the correct ones, or there was some mismanagement in the CVs that was sent to you from the college. What steps will you take? So herein, I will not say I will bar the campus from placement, or I will take the student coordinator of that college and not give him any placement. I will badmouth about that college, or anything of this sort. You will always have a very well poised answer. Like, you will get in touch with the college authorities. You'll find out why did this happen, was it deliberate or was it not deliberate, and then you will recall the CVs and then sort out the matter. So in this way, you come across as a very sorted and a very optimistic person. So this is what they are checking in your personal skills, apart from your good communication and your expression. So don't get nervous, look them in the eye and then talk. So more of non-verbal cues and verbal cues tested in this personal section. Then enthusiasm, commitment, and motivation. You need to tell them that yes, you need to come to this college, and come to it badly. For example, let's say they ask you, one of your strengths is public speaking. I'm taking this because this is one of my strengths. So public speaking is your strength, and the interviewer asks me, okay, Varid, what events have you participated in? I say, sir, I participated in 3 events, A, B, and C, and end the discussion here. So now what he wanted to know from me was what events I participated in and what did I do in these events. Like, was I a part of a skit or theater, or I was the host, and how many students were there in that event, who were the people involved. So I can also build a story around, sir, I participated in 3 events which were A, B, and C. A was an inter-year competition, B was an inter-college competition, and C was a national debate. I would like to begin from the national debate, wherein I spoke on this topic and it was one of my best experiences, and end there. So now I've given him 3 cues. that you can ask me from here, and from here. This I've already spoken about. So you, if you want, I can elaborate more on it. So I have given him a roughly 50-second to 1 minute answer, and also thrown some cues to him wherein he can build on other questions instead of just naming the events and just numbering them. So when I talk about those events, I'm showing enthusiasm, commitment, and motivation. Good communication skills is very important. Teamwork ability, always have an example here, because in an MBA college, almost 90% of the events or subjects you are studying will involve teamwork. So it's very important that you have some examples of teamwork wherein in your undergrad college or in your school, wherein you've worked as a team, you've managed, you've been a leader, or you've been a member. So have good examples on this. Ability to solve problems, they can ask you some maths problems. A lot of people say analytical ability or solving puzzles is my strength, so they can always ask you. I'll tell you, in my interview there was a very esteemed finance professor, and he asked me, why is minus into minus is equal to plus? This was the question that was asked to me. So what they were checking here was, how do I approach this question? I know it's a very difficult one, we'll take this up later. Capacity to work hard, obviously everybody likes that. Initiative and self-reliance, like you take on initiative to make a change in the society, to do something different. For example, when we were there in college, we conducted a run for the girl child. So that was an initiative which involves self-reliance, that I take up an initiative for the girl child. I organized a marathon, and this includes that I had a lot of self reliance that I can do this. So we did it at a city level, and it had never happened before. So these kind of initiatives, interviewers want to listen from you, because if you have taken initiatives in the past, you will obviously take them in the future, and you'll bring good name to their college. Obviously, a balanced personality, it is not that you're very good in academics but you can't speak, or you're very good at talking but your academics are very bad. So everybody likes a balanced personality. Out of all these things which I've mentioned, you should work very well on 3 4 of them, and try to show these 3 4 qualities out of all these to the interviewer, and you'll be through. So how should your answers be? The first rule is KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Don't frame unnecessarily long stories. For example, let's say they ask you, why should we select you? And it's a very common question which is asked in a lot of MBA interviews. So now a lot of people get confused here. They start forming stories. I grew up in this city of Ludhiana, and I studied in some XYZ school. Then I did my mechanical engineering from this college. I scored so much, let's say 90% here and there. And by the time you're reciting this long story, the interviewer has always already slept. So you should be keeping it very simple. For example, what they're looking for is, let's say this is you and this is the college. When they ask you such a question, they are only looking at you. So what you need to do is boast a little about yourself. You tell them your strengths, that I am good at public speaking, I am good at team management, and some other stories you tell here, just 2 3 qualities. Then you tell them how is their college going to benefit you. So when you go into this college, you learn a lot of managerial skills through case studies, through peers, through professors. So know a few professors from that college who are very esteemed and who are very established at the national level. And what will you give this college? You will give them your strengths, which is public speaking, which is team management. So you will be an asset to their college. So the college is giving you managerial skills and some other qualities you can look at, and you are giving your strengths to that college. So when these two things combine, you will come out with flying colors. So you'll fly here. This is what they're looking for when they ask you, why should we select you? So in a minute and a half, you can just tell them your strengths. How will the college help you enhance those strengths and learn more things? And then this combination of you and the college input in you will make you a better person, and hence you will represent that college better. than the other students. I'll also share an answer towards the end of this video lecture. The second thing is you should listen very carefully and seek clarification. For example, I ask you, what is the sales turnover of Maruti? And I've asked this question to a person who was working in Maruti. Now, by sales turnover, it can also be revenue, and it can also be the number of units that they sell. So I didn't deliberately ask in the question. When you hear such a question, such ambiguous questions, which you will definitely hear in your interview, ask them for clarity. Sir, are you talking in terms of revenue or number of units? So this shows that you have a good presence of mind, because if you simply start saying that Maruti Suzuki has sales of rupees x 100 crores in the year 2015, they will ask you, I was asking about the number of units, and then you are taken aback and completely awestruck, what did this happen? So listen carefully and always seek clarification. Even if you missed out a question, ask them to repeat, they will repeat for you. Illustrate answers with real life examples and evidence. For example, mostly they'll ask you themselves that, tell me a strength of yours and how it helped you in a real life situation. So let's say your strength was that you are very calm and composed. You don't lose your composure very easily. So how did it help you? So you will narrate an incident that I was driving, or there was somebody else who was driving, there was an accident, nobody was, you know, taking that person to the hospital. I was very calm, I managed the police and the hospital authorities at the same time, and then rescued that person, something like this. So basically you need to have a real life example on everything you say. If you say I am a very good leader or I have leadership skills, you should have an example that this is the instance wherein I showed leadership skills, and this is how the public benefited from it. So always have real life examples. So the next point is be positive, always use constructive criticism, and there should be absolutely no sarcasm. Now, for example, let's say the interviewer asks you, what do you think about the odd even rule in Delhi? Now, you might be a person who absolutely despises the odd even rule. Like you hate it to the core. It caused you so much trouble. You were unable to go to office. Students were unable to go to school, and everything was like the worst for you. But you will not say that. How will you bring it out in a more positive sense is, so the odd even rule which was put into practice by the Aam Aadmi Party in government had a very good vision that it would reduce the transport problems in Delhi. It would reduce the traffic on the roads. It would reduce pollution, which is on a height in Delhi. But unfortunately, when this rule was put into practice, a lot of people find difficulty when they had to travel to office. Also, the pollution levels did not decrease as they would have. It was a good step, but I think we need to change our focus from the odd even rule to other sources of pollution and try to minimize the levels from there. Also, this rule might work when we have a very good public transportation system. The metro, as of now in Delhi, cannot support so many people during the hours of 8 to 10 in the morning and 5 to 7 in the evening to and fro from their workplaces. So I think we need to have a more sound public transportation system, and then we can come up with this rule again, and this then will decrease the levels of pollution and the traffic on the streets of Delhi. So now what I am telling the interviewer is that I don't personally like the odd even rule, but I am not showing my hatred towards it, and this is what he will like. If you bluntly tell him this was a stupid rule, the Aam Aadmi Party was this, you never know the person sitting on the other side is a supporter of the Aam Aadmi Party, or he has some brother or relative who is a sitting MLA. So you have to be very cautious when you give any answers. So always have a neutral to positive approach. Do not have a very negative approach. Nobody likes negative people. Even you and I don't like negative people. So why would an interviewer like one? So always have a positive approach. Take time to respond. Here is where the 4,000 rule comes into mind. Whenever the interviewer asks you a question, Just don't, the second he finishes the question, try to respond to it, because you might say something very silly and very stupid. Take time. Now what you need to do is, in your mind, say 1000, 2000, 3000, 4000. By this time, 4 seconds have already passed. You've already calmed yourself down. There are thoughts which are flowing in your mind, and you've completely sorted which you need to put across, which you don't need to put across. And also, this breaks the momentum of the interviewer. Now, let's say it's a stress interview. So, the interview is waiting for you that you give me an answer, and I'll question you back. So, this will break his momentum as well. So this is a very important rule and works well in the interviews. Be alert to the interviewer's body language. A lot of times you will find when you are answering, the interviewer is having a cup of tea, talking to the other panelist or something like this. This means that you are unnecessarily elongating your answers, making them too long and making them too boring. Speak clearly, logically, smile and show enthusiasm. So don't try to speak too fast, because then you'll skip words, you'll fumble, which will not look good. Know what you want to say and then find an opportunity. For example, there's something you need to talk about. There was a person whom I interviewed, and he loved reading palms. So palmistry was something he wanted to talk about the entire interview. So as soon as he got a chance, like a question like, tell me something which is not there on your CV. Tell me what do you do in your idle time. What is your hobby? Any kind of question, and he would bring the entire interview to palmistry, which is also a very unique trait. Not many of us enjoy reading hands or know how to read hands. So when you bring something like this to talk about, just keep it in your head and find an opportunity to say it. The most important question in an MBA interview is, tell me about yourself or your introduction. So I'll just tell you on how you can answer this question. It's actually a very broad ambit, and you can actually speak on anything in the world. But a few do's and don'ts: you should not tell your life story. In the sense, don't tell that I am Varid Aroda, I belong to Ludhiana, I've done my schooling from Sacred Heart Convent School, my 10th class percentage was this, my 12th class percentage was this, then I did mechanical engineering and there my percentage was this. So when I'm speaking, it is coming out to be a very boring introduction, and moreover all these things are already there on my CV, so the interviewer is not really looking for them. So if I have to reframe this answer, I would probably speak like this. Good afternoon, sir. I am Barid Aroda and I belong to the industrial city of Ludhiana, which is known for its three W's, which are wheels, woolens, and weddings. Throughout my academic career, I've balanced my studies and extracurriculars really well, which helped me grow as a well rounded person with a strong initiative. During my stay at Thapa University, I was a part of a lot of event management and stage management teams, wherein I learned a lot of team management and was able to own my skill of public speaking. So I've just given you a 30-second introduction, and this was impromptu. But in these 30 seconds, I've thrown a lot of cues at the interviewer. So the first cue was the industrial city of Ludhiana. So he can ask me, why industrial? What is the industry that is there in Ludhiana? Then I talked about the three W's. He can ask me on any one of the three W's, and obviously I know about them. Then I talked about balancing my studies and extracurriculars. So he can ask, what was your percentage and how did you manage your time? And other things he may ask, anything. Then I talked about I am a person with a strong initiative. So he can ask me, which initiatives did you take up in college? And we did a run for the girl child. So I already have an initiative to talk about. Then I talked about event management and stage management teams, which helped me own my public speaking thing. So he can ask me, like, speak on a topic for a minute. And this was actually asked to me at Excel. They asked me, why should we reject you? And you have to speak for the topic for the next 1 minute, and your time starts now. But I was very comfortable because I like public speaking and I've done a lot of debates. So in my introduction, I've thrown many cues at them. This is what you need to do. Exclude irrelevant information like family background. I will never say my father is a businessman, my mother is a housewife, because they are not interested. I have to get a seat in the college, not them. So you should think of your introduction as a 1 2 minute commercial of your personal highlights. So you'll only talk good about yourself. You may start with a quote. uh, Not many people do this, and that is why you can do it, because then it will make your introduction little unique. Now imagine a panel is taking 50 interviews a day. How will you make sure that he remembers your introduction and not somebody else's? So you may start with a quote which you like and which you relate it to your life. It may include things which are not on your CV. So a lot of people talk about their hobbies which are generally not on their CVs, like cooking, palmistry, stand up comedy. So again, it is all about throwing cues, something you need them to ask you. Focus on skills, accomplishments, and relevant experiences. Always have relevant experiences. Like if I'm talking about initiatives, I should have a relevant experience. If I'm talking about public speaking, I should have a relevant experience. If I'm talking about team management, I should have a relevant experience. Always mention why are you interested in the position or the field. So if you're good at public speaking or you're good at talking, you have good communication skills, you can always use flowery language. Here are some of the samples. I am a caring son, a loving brother, and a trustworthy friend. A constant zeal to outperform myself, a commitment that refuses to wither away, and an innovation that keeps me on the toast crusade into the uncharted territories are few aspects of my personality. I don't mind going an extra mile to achieve excellence and the like. Now, you should always know what creates a bad impression. So, these are the don'ts in an interview. Poor personal experience: don't look like you've just come out of your bed and you are coming for this interview. Negative attitude, using excuses. For example, if you have very low marks in class 12th, don't make external factors responsible for this. By external factors, I mean that a lot of people say the school coaching was not good, and they did not allow me to take a lot of offs to sit at home and study. Always, if you made a mistake, accept them and tell them the corrective actions you've taken. So you can always say that I've scored low in my class 12th because I was involved in a lot of sports. So I used to play cricket and football, and I was in the school team, and hence my focus shifted from studies to football or cricket. But when I entered college, like your undergrad college, you've started managing your time in a better way, and then your academics are not suffering because of sports. Don't be overly aggressive. Even if they have views which are absolutely contrary to your views, you should always have a positive to neutral approach. The constructive criticism which we talked about earlier, do not just go after the interviewer that he's wrong. Lack of interest and enthusiasm, we've already talked about. Always show that you're very interested in their college and show a lot of enthusiasm in the interview. A lot of enthusiasm does not mean that you keep on telling stories. Your ideal answer should be from 40 seconds to a minute, not more than that. Lack of interest, if you just answer in yes, no, yes sir, no sir, that shows a lack of interest. Lack of preparation, you should always have 2 3 subjects from your undergrad courses on your tips, because they can ask you on the technical subjects. Poor knowledge of role, if you don't know which college you are going to, you want to do an MBA in marketing or finance, it means that you're not serious for that interview. Failure to give concrete example of skills, we've already talked about this. So if you say that you have leadership qualities or team management skills, you better have your personal examples ready. Overemphasis on money and rewards leaves a very bad impression. Lack of a career plan, you should always know where do you see yourself 5 years or 7 years down the line, as in what do you want to do in life and how this MBA college will help you achieve that goal. Lack of eye contact, don't look at the walls or the ceiling, always make an eye contact or look in the empty space between the interviewers. So if this is interviewer number 1 and this is interviewer number 2 and this is you, so you can always look between both of them, like the wall space between both of them. Non punctual, absolutely not acceptable. Nobody will accept that you're not punctual to the interview. Extreme opinions, again, you should not have extreme opinions about anything. Now, here are some of the questions which you need to prepare before going to an interview. I'll just list down. So, what you need to do is pause this video for a while as I scroll down the questions, and you can note them. So tell me about yourself. We've discussed something which is not on your CV, a very popular question. Hobbies and extracurriculars invariably asked to every second candidate in an MBA interview. Strengths and areas of development, definitely you should know. Why should we select you? I appeared for IM Code interview, and the first question when I entered the room and I hadn't even taken my seat was, why should we select you? So it's a very important question. Why should we reject you? Again, a very important question. I was asked this at XLRI. Goals, challenges, and dreams, very important. Incidents, like you need to narrate incidents from your personal life regarding your hobbies, extracurricular strengths, and weaknesses. A better name for weaknesses is areas of development. About your hometown, home state, current affairs, short term and long term objectives. The ones in bold are very important. I know all these questions are important, but the ones in bold are extremely important. Why MBA? Why this institute? Why this field? About your previous educational institutes. Justify your academic performance. You should have two favorite subjects. Who has been your role model? And the last one is anything you would like to ask us. Make sure the question, if you ask them, is not there on the website. For example, let's say I ask, what are the social initiatives taken at XLRI? And it is very clearly mentioned on the website, all the initiatives. So they will ask me, you didn't go to the website. And then the entire tempo of the interview will go down at the very last step. So make sure if you ask a question, you ask something which is not there already on the website. Now, what you can do is now answer all these questions. In case you need help on them, you can write on our Facebook page, which is by the same name as EduSathi. Now, why I'm telling you writing on the Facebook page, because most of you will have the same doubts. So, if one of you asks a question, a lot of you will benefit. Or you can ask me on Quora. I'm there as Varid Arora on Quora. Or the third option you have is to tweet us at EduSathi. So anything you want to discuss, any question you want me to answer, you can just tweet me. In case you want to get your CV verified, or you want some corrections in your CV or an overall review of your CV, you can message me on Facebook. So on that Facebook EduSathi page, you can leave a message and I'll reply back to you. Now this is because all these questions would be very individual centric. Everybody will have a different hobby. Everybody will have a different, why should we select you or why should we reject you. So basically, this is a very personalized approach, and we can answer them through these three platforms. So responding to the competency question is a very frequently asked question. Give me an example of a problem you encountered. How did you approach it? What was the outcome? This can also be asked in case of your strength or your weakness. So how should you answer this? There is a framework called the STAR response. So S is describe the situation. T is explain the task or the problem at hand. A is what the action you took, and R is the what is the result or the outcome of that thing. I'll narrate an example here. So again, I'll bring my strength, which is public speaking, into picture here. So let's say they ask me, describe me a situation wherein your strength of public speaking helped you in a problem that you had encountered. So how will I start? I will start, sir, I was the head for stage management at a college fest at my undergrad college. So we had 20 items lined up for that particular event, as it was an inter college event. But what happened was that one of the colleges was late by 15 minutes. Now, according to the rule book, they should be disqualified, but because that college requested me to not do so, I was in a fix. The audience was waiting, and the audience was about 4,500, and there was nothing to be done on the stage as the team was missing. So, what did I do was I took a friend of mine who was equally good at public speaking, and the two of us enacted a skit on the spot for 10 minutes. This skit we had prepared for a intra hostel competition. We performed the same skit for 10 minutes as a filler item on stage, and the audience really liked it, and we were cheered. So I described the situation. What was the problem? I had to disqualify them, or I needed to do something on stage. What action did I take? I took a friend and did a skit for 10 minutes. What was the result or outcome? The skit was liked by the audience, and also the college got a chance to perform on stage. And the college had traveled from some different city, you can say, traveled from Pune to Punjab, somewhere, you know, kilometers away. So the result was that everything got sorted, and this strength of mind, public speaking, gave me the confidence to go on stage and then perform that activity. So this is how you use the star approach. Now everything gets crystal clear in the interviewer's head. What was the situation? What did I do? And what was the result? Also, they can ask you, what did you learn from this experience? You can, there was nothing to learn from this experience, but what I learned was that I can do manage people really well. I can, if there is a win-win situation, I can easily identify and then tap onto this opportunity, and so on and so forth. Answering your weaknesses. Now, weaknesses are also called areas of development. You may make it a skill based weakness rather than a behavior based. A skill based weakness is something like my writing skills are not very good, and a behavior based weakness is something like I get angry very soon. Now, instead of saying angry, you can always say I am very impulsive. So it sounds like a mild word than getting angry. So a skill based weakness, my writing skills are not very good because I don't read a lot, and that is why I find difficult to pen down words. So whenever you talk about your weakness, whether skill based or behavior based, always talk about how are you working towards improving the same. So if I my weakness is that I get impulsive very soon. So I will also mention that. But now, so when I get very angry, I just close my eyes and count till 10, and the anger goes away. So this is how I'm working on my weakness. If my writing skills were poor, I've started to read a lot, look at more English news channels so that I have a good vocabulary and I can easily pen down words. Don't disguise a strength as a weakness. This is a very stupid thing to do, and a lot of people do this. Let's say you answer, I'm a perfectionist. Now this is not a weakness. Everybody will love to have you. Everybody wants a perfectionist. I am a hard taskmaster. This is not a weakness. I am a yes man. It's very good you are a yes man. You don't say no to anybody. You help every person on this planet who comes to you for help. So it's a good thing. It is not your weakness. So don't do this. Don't disguise a strength as a weakness, because then the next question the interviewer would ask is, this is a strength. It's very good that you help people or you see things to perfection, and then in that atmosphere you get lost somewhere. And then this is something I've already discussed, that always close by telling them how you compensate. Since that last experience, since that experience last semester, I have tried really hard to find a better balance between close attention to detail and keeping sight of the big picture. Now, I've just mentioned a sample weakness here. So, skill based weakness can be my technical skills are very weak. I recognized it last year when I tried to put together a website for Alpha Zeta. Now, this is a personal experience. I was interviewing a computer engineer, and then I realized that a lot of computer engineering courses have nothing to do with how to make a website, and making website is the biggest business today. So basically, computer engineers don't know how to make a website because it requires knowledge of HTML, WordPress, PHP, Java, and some other languages. So, if you talk about that, my technical skills are a weakness, I identified it last year. You also tell them how did you compensate. So, since then, I've taken several courses in computer offered at my school and have increased knowledge of programs like Dreamweaver, which I'm excited about. So, now you're telling them that you're working on your technical weaknesses. So, what are the other weaknesses you can have? That you are shy, public speaking or stage fright, sleeping, overly trusting, rude at times, impatient, introvert. Some of the harmless weaknesses are you have a weakness for chocolates, for food, you have a bad handwriting. If the interview is going really well and there's been a lot of humor, you can always mention these harmless weaknesses. Now, I've written two answers for the most asked questions, which are why should we select you and why MBA. More or less, they are the same thing. So, you have to mention your strongest qualifications in both of them and draw connections to the requirement. Like, I am very good at team management, I'm very good at leadership. So these are the things which MBA colleges look for. So you know that the requirement of the MBA college is team management, leadership, initiative taking, all that we've discussed before. And when you link your personal traits with these requirements, it makes a perfect answer. So you can read here. I've been a part of many teams and I've also led my team to the best team award last year. I've demonstrated leadership qualities and I've taken my initiatives to the logical conclusions. As your college is committed to develop thought leadership with deep understanding of business, I would be one of the better candidates to get a seat. I will strive to learn not only from my teachers but also from my peers of diverse background. This will give me an opportunity to become a successful leader of tomorrow. Now, speaking and writing are two very different things. This is something which you can write in a college form and send. But when you speak this, it might sound very scripted. My idea of writing these two answers is that you pick up cues from here, that you need to demonstrate leadership, teamwork, and then add in some personal touch, like your personal experience and how you've actually managed your team. And then this answer will come out to be very good, because as of now, if this answer I give to A, B, or C, and all of them say the same thing, it will not make a difference to the interviewer. But when you add a personal touch, when you add a personal experience, when you add a personal strength, a personal trait which is very good and MBA colleges look for, this answer would be really good. You can read the second one also. Pause the video and have a look. So that's all about it. I've already told you, if you have any doubts, you can like and follow us on Facebook, drop in a message or write on our wall. Tweet us at EduSathi on Quora. I'm there as Varid Arora. If you have any personal doubts which you want to get cleared, any personal opinion on a particular answer, you can just message me on Quora as well. And my YouTube channel is by the name of EduSathi. This is the link, youtube.com/c/edusathi. Do subscribe and follow us at our channel for more updates. Thank you.